Okay, all right. So today I'm gonna present a paper called The Inside Broker. And this paper is written by Rick, and I'm gonna present this paper in front of him. So lots of pressure. Let's get started. The the background of this paper arises from several rules. So the first rule is that based on the Securities Act of 1933, a firm can actually issue some unregistered shares to an individual as part of a compensation scheme. And if this individual wants to sell these unregistered shares, he or she is required to form out a form called 144. And this particular form actually contains some information on the brokerage firm, the proposed date of sale, and the proposed quantity. So as you can see, this is a snapshot of the form 144. So clearly we can say the name of the person for whose account the securities are to be sold. So basically, this is the seller. Okay, this is the seller, Keller Michael Edward, and we know the exact information of the broker, as well as the number of the shares and the monetary value, the approximate date of sale, and of course the securities exchange. Okay, and so there are several strands of literature on information asymmetry in this field, and the first strand of literature documents the fact that the corporate insiders, as the name suggests, they have an informational advantage over outside investors. And we also know from some previous papers that the intermediaries, such as brokers, these brokers facilitated the trade, and not surprisingly, they have the information advantage. And more importantly, in the previous literature, the focus is that this information asymmetry is mostly pre-disclosure. And this means that this asymmetry is expected to dissipate when the insider trade is publicly revealed, as this form is disclosed on the SEC. And the third strand of literature documents the fact that the analysts or the fund managers, they can actually access the information asymmetry due because of the insiders and through the interactions with firm managers. And of course, there are some questions left unanswered in the previous literature. For instance, can the information asymmetry be post-exposure? Well, it's true that we can get some information from the form 144, but the fact is that we still do not know the exact nature or timing of the trade. For instance, whether this trade is liquidity driven or prospect driven, whether this is a limited order in advance or a quick market order after the board meeting, we have no idea. And there are also some endogeneity issues for the prior literature. Because, like, what if it is the broker who generates the recommendation and the insider, he or she just simply follows it? And this paper, the goal of this paper is to address the questions above. And we do empirically document the fact that the information asymmetry is non-lasting and post-exposure. So to establish the causality, the ideal experiment is that each insider can pick at least two brokers he can have a long-term relationship with. And this long-term relationship excludes heterogeneity in levels of communication. And each time this insider trades, a broker is randomly assigned to execute the trade. And then we measure the information advantage of the broker selected for the trade relative to others. But the fact is that in reality, we do not have such ideal setting. So to solve or to address this issue, we use the high dimensional fixed effects. So basically, we run the following panel regressions, where the dependent variable is either the forecast accuracy for an analyst or the trade profitability for broker-affiliated fund. And this collect is a dummy variable, so that equals 1 if inside and firm F trades through a brokerage affiliated with analyst and time t. And this X is basically some time-varying control variables. And also, we include several fixed effects. The first is firm times time fixed effects. So this basically controls for time-varying firm level characteristics that impacts insider trades and accuracy. And the second fixed effect is the analyst times broker times firm fixed effect, which controls for heterogeneity in the unobserved relation between the insider, broker, and analyst. And the third is analyst times broker times time fixed effect, which controls for time varying heterogeneity in the analyst and broker. Well, maybe let's say an analyst can become more experienced over time and a broker has more resources over time. So we want to control for this time varying heterogeneity. And here comes our first baseline result. So the dependent variable basically relates to the forecast accuracy of the inside broker. And as we can see that, so if this, if let's say this analyst is collected with the broker who execute the trade on behalf of the insider, so these coefficients for this error for this forecast accuracy error will decline given the statistically significant and negative results. And the same goes to the target price error. And if we, let's say, change our dependent variable to the dummy variable that equals 1, and if the analyst forecast is the most accurate one, we find this coefficient becomes positive, meaning that if this analyst is collected, his forecast will is more likely to become the most accurate one. Okay, and the similar goes to the profitability of the inside broker affiliated fund trades. So where the depending variable the sign of return or this one measures the profitability, and as the result shows, so if let's say if this fund manager is collected with the broker, the profitability of his trades will increase. Okay, and we also examine the timing of this effect. So because we focus on the post discovery effect, so we anticipate there can be no pre-trend. And we also expect this information symmetry to dissipate over time. And here comes the result. So basically, for the dummy variable collects up to 90 days before the insider trades, all these coefficients are insignificant, suggesting no trade. And this also partially alleviates concern of reverse causality. And as you can see, like, well, as days go by in the post-disclosure period, all these coefficients decline and eventually become insignificant. And to address some endogeneity issue, we conduct several falsification tests. And the first test basically addresses some unobserved ties. So maybe an analyst, he can forecast better because of some unobserved ties. And if that's the case, we expect this analyst to perform better, even though this insider changed the broker. Okay, but the truth is, based on the result for the pseudo collect this dummy variable, so it equals 1 when the analyst as the no longer collected brokerage issues an earnings forecast following the insider's trade through the new broker. So basically, the insider changed the broker, and then the analyst issues a forecast. So this coefficients becomes insignificant. Okay, so this implies that it is the insider's trading activity at the brokerage that is the key driver to analyst forecast accuracy. And the second falsification test basically addresses the concern that maybe it is some unobserved type between the firm and the brokerage that contributes to the forecast accuracy. So, and again, this scenario is that the insider changes jobs and other firm insiders trade through some non-connected brokers. And again, for the coefficient on the pseudo collect, all these coefficients become insignificant. And the third falsification test is that, well, maybe there are still some, let's say, unobserved types. Well, maybe this analyst just excels in forecasting, um, excels in forecasting or issuing the earnings forecast. So if that's the case, we expect this analyst to continue his excellent performance, even though he changed his job, even though he moves, but he covers the same firm. And the significance suggests that, well, that's not the case because like the coefficient on pseudo collect, all these coefficients are insignificant. And well, we also want to further rule out some concerns on unobserved ties between brokers and the firm. So we conduct a subsample test. So basically, we focus on the non-major brokers only, where in each column, the major broker is defined those used by, let's say, 50% of the insiders or 25% insiders. And, and we focus on these non-major brokers. But still, the results for this dummy variable collect remains significant, and the magnitude is very similar. So this means that some unobserved ties between the brokers and the firm cannot explain our results. And we also analyze some different channels. We also want to analyze whether, let's say, the document effect, the results come from different channels. So in these two subsample tests, so we either focus on some analysts, but we exclude those mutual fund managers affiliated with these brokers. We focus on those fund managers, but exclude those affiliated analysts. And the magnitude remains the same, and the results remain significant. So the conclusion is that we find some. So our first finding is that the analysts and fund managers affiliated with such inside brokers, they can obtain a significant information advantage. And this advantage is post-disclosure. And the third implication is that brokers facilitating these trades are in a position to exploit this. Thanks.